Hello students, welcome back. This is the final lecture in 3 lecture series on acid-base balance and associated disturbances. By now, we're aware of isohydria, methods of maintenance of isohydria, acidosis, complications of acidosis and how to manage it. In this final lecture, we shall know alkalosis, complications and management associated with it. We shall discuss mixed acid-base disorders and finally ABG analyzer. I know you're pretty bored by now, but please bear with me. This is for your own good. Trust me. So, why even study alkalosis? What does it do? Why is it important? Alkalosis causes overexcitability of the central and peripheral nervous systems. It causes numbness, lightheadedness. It can cause nervousness, muscle spasms or tetany, convulsions, loss of consciousness, and even death. So, by making a base of what alkalosis causes, we may be able to better perceive what it is and why we should even study it. As in case of acidosis, alkalosis is also of two types, metabolic and respiratory. The metabolic alkalosis is associated with an increase in the concentration of bicarbonate ions in the blood, whereas the respiratory alkalosis is associated with a decrease or a fall in concentration in partial pressure of carbon dioxide or concentration of carbonic acid in the blood. Metabolic alkalosis is due to bicarbonate excess. What is this excess? By what amount of excess we mean here? Normal bicarbonate values in the blood are 24 milliequivalents per liter, and the range falls between 22 to 26 milliequivalents per liter. If there is an excess of bicarbonate above 26 milliequivalents per liter, it is known as metabolic alkalosis. There are three primary reasons that lead to a bicarbonate excess in the blood. The three reasons are addition of excess base, defective base excretion, or loss of acids. Any of these can lead to an imbalance and hence rise in the bicarbonate levels in the blood. Now, these are the primary reasons. There are conditions, clinical conditions, which fall in the category of any of these three, and which eventually lead to the metabolic alkalosis. Let's just discuss what are all these conditions. The conditions that cause metabolic alkalosis can be described in subtypes. There is chloride responsive alkalosis. In this, urinary chloride is less than 10 millimoles per liter. It is caused when there is excess vomiting or gastric aspiration. During these conditions, usually hydrogen and chloride ions from the stomach are lost, leading to alkalosis. If there is a prolonged use of diuretics, then there is an excess use of alkaline drugs. Heavy ingestion of antacids may also lead to alkalosis. Then the second subtype is chloride resistant alkalosis. In this, urinary chloride is more than 10 millimoles per liter. It occurs when there is a potassium deficiency. There is endocrine disorders such as hyperaldosteronism, or there is hypertension or Cushing syndrome. Third subtype is if there are genetic disorders, then they also lead to metabolic alkalosis. And which are these genetic disorders? For example, Bartter syndrome, Liddle syndrome, and Gitelman syndrome. In addition to all these, the radiation therapy received by the cancer patients also leads to metabolic alkalosis. Metabolic alkalosis, just like metabolic acidosis, is also associated with variation in levels of potassium. The only difference being metabolic acidosis is associated with hyperkalemia, whereas metabolic alkalosis is associated with hypokalemia, that is low blood potassium concentrations. Usually it is seen in hyperaldosteronism. Sodium ions are retained and in exchange potassium ions are excreted, or in response to the already existing low hydrogen ions in ECF due to alkalosis, hydrogen ions move out. In exchange to that, potassium ions are transported in the ICF, and hence there is a leaving behind low potassium concentration in the blood. This is also applicable in the kidneys when kidneys are attempting to restore the hydrogen ion concentration. They tend to preserve hydrogens instead of excreting, which usually kidneys excrete hydrogens in the urine. And when they are preserving the hydrogens, they are preserving in exchange to the K positive, which is lost in urine. This also contributes towards hypokalemia. How to identify metabolic alkalosis? A patient coming in with following features can be considered suspected for metabolic alkalosis. There may be a slow and shallow respiration. On ABG analysis, there must be a visible increased arterial PCO2, which may lead to increased peripheral oxygen unloading. If the pH is above 7.55, there may be a visible increased neuromuscular activity. A decreased myocardial contractility may be observed, and arrhythmias may also be there. How should the body compensate for metabolic alkalosis? To compensate for the excess amount of bicarbonate, the obvious answer becomes the respiratory compensation, hypoventilation. But hypoventilation can also not go on as hypoventilation will retain carbon dioxide in the blood, and there is an upper limit to the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in blood, which is 55 mmHg. If hypoventilation is continued beyond that, it leads to hypoxia. Thus, the respiratory compensation for metabolic alkalosis by hypoventilation is also limited as long as the upper limit of blood carbon dioxide is maintained below 55 mmHg. Now, kidneys compensate for metabolic alkalosis. They tend to reduce the reabsorption of bicarbonate ions and hence secrete it in the urine, while they also retain hydrogen ions so that the alkalotic condition can be neutralized. The first method of treatment of all the acid-base disturbances is always to identify and treat an underlying disorder which causes these disturbances at the first place. Then, in case of chloride responsive cases of metabolic alkalosis, electrolyte replenishment for chloride and potassium ions along with the fluid should be done. In case of chloride resistant cases, IV chloride can be given. Potassium sparing diuretics should be given in case of renin, angiotensin, aldosterone affected metabolic alkalosis cases. As in the case of isohydria, the normal ratio of acid to base is 1:20. In metabolic alkalosis, there is an increase in the concentration of bicarbonate due to any of the underlying causes previously discussed. The ratio of the acid to base shifts to 1:40. As a result, there is an increase in the pH, whereas PCO2 remains unchanged. In order to compensate for this disturbance, respiratory system suppresses breathing to hold back the carbon dioxide so that carbonic acid concentration can be increased. Kidneys also retain hydrogen ions, further contributing to increase in the acid. Also, the bicarbonate ions are eliminated in urine so that the alkali concentration is dropped. The combined effect of respiratory and renal compensation is a shift in acid-base ratio to 1.25:30. While the compensation goes on, in case of acute cases, intravenous chloride is given to make up for the lost bicarbonate ions, finally restoring the acid to base ratio to 1:20. Coming to respiratory alkalosis. Respiratory alkalosis is caused by a carbonic acid deficit. How much deficit? The partial pressure of carbon dioxide, the normal range, is between 35 to 45 mmHg, but when the partial pressure of carbon dioxide falls below 35 mmHg, it results in respiratory alkalosis. The condition is also called hypocapnia. The primary cause is hyperventilation. Now this hyperventilation can be caused by various reasons. Let's just discuss which are all these. What are the factors that stimulate respiratory center leading to hyperventilation? Mechanical overventilation, oxygen deficiency at high altitudes, pulmonary diseases and congestive heart failure caused by hypoxia, raised intracranial pressure, hysterical overbreathing or acute anxiety, fever and anemia may also lead to alkalosis, respiratory alkalosis. Salicylate intoxication is also a factor. Liver failure, hepatic insufficiency or cirrhosis can also contribute towards the same. In pregnancy also there is respiratory alkalosis. And in gram-negative sepsis. Contrary to what the name says, respiratory alkalosis cannot be compensated by respiratory mechanism. It can only be compensated by the kidneys. Kidneys take their usual 2 to 6 hours to respond. As there is deficit in the carbonic acid component, they conserve hydrogen ions and excrete bicarbonate ions, get rid of the alkali so as to rebalance the acid alkali ratio. To further contribute towards to increase in acidity, renal excretion of ammonium ion and titratable acidity, acid is reduced. It is observed in chronic cases that for a 1 mm fall of PCO2 causes 0.4 to 0.5 millimoles per liter drop in bicarbonate ions and 0.3 millimoles per liter drop in hydrogen ions. As with other acid-base disorders, the treatment of respiratory alkalosis also begins with identifying and treating the underlying cause. Next step is to breathe into a paper bag. As the respiratory alkalosis is itself caused by hyperventilation leading to loss of carbon dioxide or carbonic acid, rebreathing the expelled carbon dioxide helps bring back the blood carbon dioxide level to normal. If the condition persists, an intravenous solution of chloride should be given. Chloride tends to make up for the lost bicarbonate ions. How? Now, besides being the alkali reserve, and we want to get rid of this alkali, bicarbonate is also a negatively charged ion. Loss of an ion will influence neutrality and hence the replacement of chloride ions. Before the onset of respiratory alkalosis, the ratio of acid-base is 1:20. Hyperventilation causes blowing off of carbon dioxide from the lungs, leading to respiratory alkalosis and shift in acid-base ratio to 0.5:20. As there is a decrease in PCO2, a decrease in pH is also observed, while there is no change in the bicarbonate concentration. There is only renal compensation in case of respiratory alkalosis. Kidneys eliminate bicarbonate ions, preserve hydrogen ions, along with ammonium ions and titratable acid. This decreases the alkali concentration, leading to a shift in ratio to 0.5:15. Therapy, if required, includes intravenous chloride ions, and hence eventually the ratio of acid to base is set to normal to 0.5:10. Now let's see what a simple decompensated acid-base disorder looks like. Now why I am using the word simple here, I'll come to that a little later. So the primary decrease in metabolic acidosis is that of bicarbonate concentration. Secondary to that is a fall in pH and a fall in partial pressure of carbon dioxide. In case of respiratory acidosis, the primary change is increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Due to this, the secondary change is a fall in pH and an increase in bicarbonate concentration. Excuse me. In case of metabolic alkalosis, the primary change is increase in bicarbonate concentration, whereas secondary to that are increase in pH and increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide. In case of respiratory alkalosis, the primary factor is a fall in partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and secondary to that is an increase in pH and a decrease in bicarbonate concentration. That was about decompensated acid-base disorders. Now we know that the body does compensate for the imbalance, acid-base imbalance, but it also has limits to it. There is a limit to the compensating capacity of the body. So in case of metabolic acidosis, in compensation, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide has to be decreased. The lower limit to it is 15 mmHg. For the respiratory acidosis compensation, bicarbonate has to be increased, and it can only be increased up to the upper limit of 32 millimoles per liter. The PCO2 upper limit for metabolic alkalosis compensation is 50 mmHg, and the bicarbonate compensation for respiratory alkalosis has the lower limit of 15 millimoles per liter. We touched upon ABG analyzer in our first lecture. This equipment analyzes the pH and gaseous components of arterial blood drawn either from brachial or radial artery. For patients with critical illness reporting to emergency room, recovery room, or admitted to ICU, blood gas parameters are constantly monitored. In order to obtain a better picture, electrolytes and renal function tests are also performed if required. What information does an ABG analyzer give? If you remember, it gives us two types of values. Ones it can measure directly, and then the other ones which can be calculated on the basis of a very famous equation you must all be aware of. So the directly measured values are pH, the normal range for which is 7.36 to 7.44. The normal range for partial pressure of carbon dioxide is 35 to 45 mmHg, with the average being 40 mmHg. If the PCO2 is below 35 mmHg, it is considered hypocapnia. If it is above 45 mmHg, it is hypercapnia. The normal range of partial pressure of oxygen is 80 to 100 mmHg. The calculated values, the normal range for bicarbonate is 22 to 26 millimoles per liter. There are other calculated values which are used frequently, but as they are beyond the scope of your curriculum, so they have not been mentioned here. So these are the normal values for various parameters obtained from ABG analyzer for a healthy individual. If there is a variation in any of the values, the respective acid-base disorder can be diagnosed. This diagram helps in identification of various acid-base disorders on an ABG output, which has pH on one axis, plasma bicarbonate concentration on another, and PCO2 on the third axis. You must have already covered this in your physiology and hence must be familiar with this with this curve, so I won't go into the details of this diagram any further and save your time. If you remember, I had a little while earlier used the term simple with acid-base disturbances. This is so because until then we discussed each disturbance individually. Now that is not the case always. As a matter of fact, it's a common occurrence that more than one type of disturbances coexist. How do we know that there is more than one type of disorder? The ABG analysis will provide such indications. At first, it appears that the second disorder is in response to the compensation for the first, but only a careful observation of ABG analysis will solve the riddle. When the compensation, as we are considering it as a compensatory response, is beyond the expected limit, we know the compensation has its limits. It is a second disorder and not just compensatory response. The patient thus has a mixed acid-base disorder. Well, these are a few examples of mixed acid-base disorders. It is intended that you all read these examples carefully and understand them why these are mixed acid-base disorders. Listed here are the sources which I have used to prepare this lecture. With this, we wrap up on the topic of acid-base balance. We're completely aware of the fact that you all are missing a lot on your education due to this pandemic, but we're also confident that all of our students are resilient and you will give the situation a tough fight and will only come back enriched with knowledge as you join us back. We're waiting for you all here. And before I finally shut up, deep inside, I'm afraid that I landed up in the fourth category of the picture here. I hope you guys saved me. Thank you for that. Fingers crossed. Keep reading and be happy. And yeah, bye bye.